Hey guys, alright, so we're at the end of this chapter, finally. So I really don't give a crap about, like, beer making stuff, but I'll put it on here because it's in the book and it's part of the homesteading thing, so hey. And I know I'm not going to be making beer, but I will grow hops because it is medicinal, so. Alright, this one is on basic barley malting. Barley malting is best done in late fall or winter, when temperatures are cold. The temperature of the malting area should be around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, if not cooler. There are two reasons for this, both having to do with the final quality of the malt. Warm temperatures cause germinating barley to bolt, or grow very rapidly into a green shoot. Warm temperatures also encourage molds, mildews, and fungi that can grow on wet grain. To malt barley, you'll need some basic equipment. Some of the items on the list are handy, but optional, others are vital. This basic malting procedure is for 5 pounds of barley grain. Alright, first one, 2 5-gallon plastic buckets. Number 2, 1 5-gallon plastic bucket with 1/8 of an inch holes drilled in the bottom. That's about like that. Like that. 1/8 of an inch, something like that. 3. Close fitting but not airtight lid for plastic buckets with holes. 4. Large metal or plastic spoon. Alright, I'm going to step in here because I wouldn't honestly recommend plastic or metal. Because if you're dealing with something that's fermenting, you don't want plastic or metal. Metal especially. Alright. 5 thermometer. 6 notebook for recording procedures. See, that's where the planner would come in, you guys. And you know what? I'll tell you what. I will include beer making, alcohol making, wine making, and even the barley malting stuff in the planner, which I'm going to have to look all that stuff up, and I will include it. Okay, guys? I want to try to make this as complete of a planner as possible, but I also want to make it to where I will promise you guys right now, I will make this planner easily accessible and affordable, no matter how big of a planner it is, okay? Even if I have to have my son help create our website with all the links and everything on it. And I will pay him money for doing it. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7, a 20-pound scale. That's optional. 8, aquarium pump with air stone. Please buy a new one rather than reusing an old one. Algae and fish waste don't mix with beer. That would be gross. Beer's nasty as it is. Who wants beer that tastes like algae and fish poop? Yummy! Algae and fish poop flavored beer. Alright. Number 1, clean the grain. Weigh out 5 pounds of barley and pour it into a 5-gallon bucket. Fill the bucket with water, stir the grain, and allow the chaff and debris to float to the top. Pour off the debris and repeat with fresh water as needed. For a minute, I thought this said fish water. Number 2, steep the grain for a total of 72 hours. Cover the grain with at least half a gallon of water at 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. Change the steeping water after 2 hours by pouring the grain and water through the perforated bucket into the second 5-gallon bucket, and every 12 hours thereafter. If an aquarium pump and air stone are used, the water needs to be changed just once every 24 hours. Alright, number 3, germination. Drain the grain thoroughly in the sieve bucket, the one with the holes drilled in the bottom. Pour about a gallon of water into the 5-gallon bucket and then put the air stone into the water and turn on the pump. Set the sieve bucket full of grain into the plastic bucket. Excuse me. The temperature of the grain should never exceed 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius. After about 3 days of germination, rootlets will begin to grow, and the acrospire or shoot should be visible as a bulge under the husk. Once the acrospire has grown into 2/3 the length of the grain, it should be couched. That does not mean sitting it on your couch in your house. All right, number 4, couching. This process prevents the acrospire from growing by denying it oxygen and allows enzymes to convert the grain starches into fermentable sugars. Turn off the aquarium pump and seal the sieve bucket with a lid. Turn the germinating mass once a day to prevent heat and carbon dioxide buildup. Couch the grain for 1 to 3 days. Number 5, kilning. Kilning. To make a dark malt, use a home oven at least at the lowest setting possible. Spread out the grain on a baking sheet, place the sheet in the oven, and leave the door slightly ajar. It should take about 48 hours to dry 5 pounds of wet malt. I do believe you could probably use a sun oven for that. But I don't know if you could, I don't think you couldn't put 5 pounds in it. You would have to do like a lot smaller at a time, but you know. Number 6, roasting. Once the malt has been dried, it can be spread in a 3/4 inch layer on a baking sheet and roasted in the oven. All home roasted grain should be allowed to cool after roasting and stored in a cool, dry place to mellow for 5 to 7 days before brewing. Roasting times vary according to the kind of malt you're producing. Here are a few examples. Toasted malt. Roast the dry, kilned malt at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 177 degrees Celsius for 10 to 15 minutes. Munich malt. Munich. Roast the dry, kilned malt at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 177 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes until it's lightly toasted. Black patent malt. Start with dry, finished malt. Spread the malt very thinly and roast at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 177 degrees Celsius for 1 hour and 20 minutes. Stir often to prevent burning. A certain amount of smoke in the kitchen is inevitable, however. Basic home brew. All right, and then here's the recipes. So guys, if you want to write them down, get a pen and paper. So this is going to be a bit because there's several recipes and they're quite long. This one's really long. Okay, hold on. This one is... This is on Basic Homebrew. And this has... technically 26 steps to it. Nope. 30... 39, 40. This one has 41 steps to it. Okay, so get ready, guys. Or you can use your phone and record it if you want. Actually, we'll be right back. Alright, sorry about that, guys. So, this is basic homebrew. First of all, the basic brewing ingredients: water, 5 gallons, bottled spring water or tap water that is pre-boiled may be used. Don't use tap water, I don't care what this book says, unless it is filtered from a rainwater catchment system. Do not use tap water that's pumped from the city. Don't do that. Period. Bad. Just don't do that. Boil 6 gallons of water uncovered for 15 to 20 minutes. Cover and let cool. Siphon the water into sanitized containers. For most types of beer, a pH of 5.0 to 5.5 is best.
Don't mind this, I'm just trying to find something.
Adding gypsum or Burton water salts will lower the pH of brewing water. Burton water salts also treats water with minerals for optimal beer making. Malt concentrate. 6 to 8 pounds of malt concentrate, a molasses-like syrup made from malted barley sugar, available in amber, dark, and light. Hops. 1.5 to 3 ounces of hops pellets, depending on desired bitterness. Hops is an herb that flavors the beer. Yeast. Brewer's yeast. Available in dry and liquid form, usually comes in amounts that are right for one batch. Crystal malt. And no, that is not crystal meth, it's crystal malt. M-A-L-T. Don't be putting drugs in your beer.
Yeah.
Toasted malted barley for imparting a mellow flavor. Corn sugar. A small amount of corn sugar to add at bottling time to produce carbonation. Now see, that's right there. Beer is horribly bad for you because corn sugar, ew! Who wants that? Ew! Come on, guys. Why? Alright, learning a basic recipe is a must, and this one is intended to produce a continental-style lager that will please most palates. 5 gallons of brewing water, 4 gallons chilled, 1 gallon at room temperature. 2 cans, 3 1/3 to 4 pounds each, unhopped amber malt concentrate. 1/2 cup plus 1 tablespoon of corn sugar. Again, yuck. 1 packet of lager yeast. 1/2 to 1 pound of crystal malt, M-A-L-T. 1.5 to 3 ounces of hops pellets. Preparation. Thorough preparation is essential to the success of any home brewing effort. It cannot be overstressed. Preparation includes cleaning and sanitizing all the equipment and procuring all necessary supplies before beginning. It is best to use baking soda and warm water for cleaning brew-making equipment, as soap leaves a residue that can harm the beer. Be sure to allocate sufficient time for each step. Besides the above ingredients, you'll need the following equipment. Number 1, chlorine sanitizing solution. Number 2, stock pot. Number 3, a long-handled spoon. Number 4, grain bag. Number 5, a mason jar. Number 6, primary fermenter with fermentation lock. Number 7, aluminum foil. Number 8, a carboy. I don't know what that is. Number 9, a bottling bucket. Number 10, bottles. Okay. Brew talk. Pitch. To add yeast to the wort to begin the fermentation process. Prime. The process of adding sugar or malt extract to the beer at bottling to induce carbonation. Rack. The process of siphoning unfinished home brew from the primary fermentation vessel to the secondary fermentation vessel or bottling bucket. Wort. W-O-R-T. Brewing liquid steeped with malt and flavorings before fermentation, pronounced wort. W-E-R-T. That's how it's pronounced. All right, number 1. Prepare a chlorine sanitizing solution according to package instructions. Or use homemade solution. I just spit on my book. Plastic items should be dipped into the solution but should not be allowed to soak. They may pick up and transmit an unpleasant chlorine taste. Shouldn't be using chlorine anyway, but that's just my opinion. It's more than an opinion because chlorine is a chemical you really don't want to be drinking. All items should be rinsed 3 times in very hot tap water after being sanitized. Number 2, wash the stock pot and the spoon. These need not be sanitized because they will be in contact with only the boiling wort. Number 3, wash and sanitize the mason jar and a piece of aluminum foil large enough to cover the mouth of the jar. Rinse and then let the jar drain by placing it upside down on clean paper towels. Number 4, wash and sanitize the primary fermenter, its lid, and the fermentation lock. Steeping and primary fermentation. It is a good idea to read and understand all these steps before you begin to work. They will take you from preparation of the yeast through the start of the fermentation process. Number 1, have the 4 gallons of chilled brewing water ready. Pour the remaining gallon into the stock pot. Number 2, prepare the yeast. In a small saucepan, measure 2 1/4 cups of the brewing water. Heat it to steaming. Add 1 tablespoon of the malt concentrate and 1 level tablespoon of the corn sugar. Stir until dissolved, increase heat and simmer for 10 minutes. Let cool until lukewarm. Number 3, pour the mixture into the sanitized mason jar. Add the yeast, gently swirl the jar to mix. Cover the jar with aluminum foil and set aside. Number 4. Heat the water in the stock pot until it is steaming but not quite boiling. Meanwhile, pour the crystal malt into the grain bag, tie it off to prevent spillage, then lower the bag into the stock pot. The crystal malt will begin to flavor the water and prepare the grain for cooking. Remove the stock pot from the heat, remove the grain bag, and set it in a clean container. Number 5. Add the remaining malt concentrate to the hot water. Stir until it is dissolved. Number 6. Return the stock pot to high heat. Heat the mixture until it is almost boiling. Return the grain bag to the hot mixture. Stir frequently but gently. Number 7. Vigorously pour the 4 gallons of chilled brewing water into the primary fermenter. Vigorous pouring will aerate the water. Cover the fermenter. Number 8. When the mixture in the stock pot is heated almost to boiling, remove from heat and transfer the grain bag to the primary fermenter. Number 9. Stir the grain bag in the water briefly, replace the cover. Add the hops pellets to the hot mixture in the stock pot. Stir. Return the pot to high heat. Stir frequently. Read this paragraph very carefully. Listen very carefully. Okay. Sorry, something caught my eye. Now that all the ingredients have been added to the stock pot and the grain bag has been removed, you will bring the mixture to a boil. As the mixture approaches boiling, a froth will form on the surface. When it reaches the boiling point, it will vigorously foam to as much as twice its normal volume. This foaming is the reason for using such a large pot for what seems to be such a relatively small amount of liquid. An overflow of hot foam can scald you badly on contact. At best, it will make a sweet foamy mess all over your stove. Gross. After foam up occurs, the froth will die down of its own accord and the liquid will maintain a rolling boil. Stir occasionally during this time. Let it boil about 20 minutes from the foam up. Number 10. After 20 minutes of boiling, remove the pot from the heat. Let the mixture cool in the pot until the outside of the pot feels cool. You can hasten this step by placing the pot in a sink full of cold water. Be careful not to let any of the sink water get into the pot. As the mixture is cooling, remove the grain bag from the fermenter and discard the grain. Clean the grain bag immediately in warm water. It can be reused almost indefinitely. Number 11. When the outside of the pot feels cool, dry the outside and pour the mixture into the water in the fermenter. The mixture should not be stone cold, but if it's too warm, the heat will kill the yeast preparation. Stir the contents, now called the wort, of the fermenter to mix well. Number 12. By this time, the yeast preparation in the mason jar should be actively working. Swirl the jar gently and carefully pour the preparation into the wort. Cover the fermenter. Put the fermentation lock in place. Follow directions for its proper use. Okay, this is what they're talking about. That's the fermentation lock right there. Number 13. Place the fermenter in a location that maintains a fairly constant temperature of about 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. When yeast becomes active, move the fermenter to a cooler 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 7 to 10 degrees Celsius location. Do not turn those temperatures around, you guys. The 45 to 50 degrees is Fahrenheit. The 65 to 70 is Fahrenheit. Note, when making ale, do not move the fermenter to a cooler location. Number 14. The time that the wort will spend in the fermenter in its primary fermentation will depend largely on ambient temperature and on such conditions as initial water temperature and the type of yeast used. After as little as 2 days or as many as 7, the foam head on the top of the wort will collapse and the top of the wort will be visible. Resist the temptation to lift the lid and examine the wort too often. Any opening of the lid invites the invasion of unwanted microorganisms that can spoil the beer. The bubbling of outgoing carbon dioxide through the fermentation lock will let you know that things are progressing well. So you don't need to open the lid, so don't. When the bubbling slows to one bubble every 90 seconds, it is time to siphon the wort into the glass carboy. I think my computer's lacking, so I might have to restart it. Secondary fermentation. The second fermentation will take longer than the first and will complete the principal production of alcohol in the wort. It will also contribute most of the... Wow, I can't talk. It will also contribute, much of the flavor and character to the beer. The steps to accomplish the second fermentation are very simple, but you must follow them carefully so as not to spoil the wort. Number 1, wash the carboy thoroughly. Sanitize it with a chlorine solution and rinse it thoroughly with hot water 3 times. Wash, sanitize, and rinse the carboy's fermentation lock, rubber stopper, and siphoning tube. Number 2, use the siphoning tube to transfer the wort between fermenters. To do this, set the primary fermenter on a surface above the carboy. Number 3, start the siphon. Fill the tube completely with water using your thumbs to seal the ends of the tube. While holding your thumb over one end of the tube, place the other end into the fermenter. Let the water flow into a catch container. Now, don't let the water flow into the other fermentation thing. It'll screw your beer up. When beer starts to flow out of the tube, stop the end again using your thumb. Insert the tube into the carboy with the end of the tube at the bottom of the carboy. Release your thumb and let the flow resume. It will take a few minutes for the wort to flow from the fermenter into the carboy. During this time, hold the tube in the fermenter as steadily as possible to prevent bubbles or agitation. Channeling the wort against the side of the carboy helps. Number 6, when you begin to hear sucking noises from the inflow of the tube, stop the siphon and remove the siphon hose. If necessary, add brewing water to the carboy until the top of the wort is about 1 inch below the lip of the carboy. Insert the rubber stopper, which should not touch the wort. The fermentation lock into the fermentation lock into the top of the carboy right away. Number 8, place the carboy in a location with a steady temperature of 40 to 50 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit, and minimal light exposure. You can cover it with a light-proof cover such as a coat or black plastic bag. Number 9, leave the carboy undisturbed and listen for the bubbles through the fermentation lock. These will occur less frequently than during the primary fermentation, but they will come. Really? Number 10, thoroughly wash the siphon hose and the fermenter. These need not be sanitized at this time, but they must be kept clean, and they will be used again before you are done. Number 11, the secondary fermentation will take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, so don't expect this to be like a real quick thing, guys. It is complete when bubbles have just about stopped rising to the top of the wort and an 1/8 inch wide ring of bubbles has formed at the surface. Number 12, you should wait at least 1 week after secondary fermentation is done to let the sediment settle, and you may wait an additional week to suit your convenience. Number 13, during the waiting period, make sure that all of your bottling supplies and equipment are ready. It's best to thoroughly wash the bottles well in advance so they are ready to be sanitized and rinsed right before they are needed for bottling. Alright, where do I get that? Equipment and ingredients for beer making are often available in home wine and beer supply stores. Check your local yellow pages under brewing supplies or winemaking supplies. You may also obtain information about brewing and supplies from the Home Wine and Beer Trade Association. Many home brewers learn more about making beer by joining a home brew club. Ask about clubs when you visit a local supplier or contact the Brewers Association. Alright. Too many bubbles? Excessive carbonation occurs for many reasons. This fermentation temperature may have been too low, there may not have been enough fermentation time, or there may have been too much corn sugar in the bottling process. Again, yuck, for example. Most of the time, the worst that happens is that the beer has too much foam and you'll have to wait a little longer than usual for the foam to die down in the glass before you drink. The beer isn't ruined. Bottling and storage. It's no secret, bottling beer is tedious. Enlist a friend to help and keep you company. Be sure to read this section through entirely before starting any of the following procedures. All right. Listen carefully, guys, and you can use the video anytime. Practice the bottling procedure with water in the fermenter before you actually attempt to bottle beer. It can be a bit tricky, and it is better to learn on water than to waste beer. Number 1. If you haven't already, thoroughly wash the bottles and make sure that the other supplies and ingredients are ready. Get down. Tux is trying to eat Cinnamon's food. Andrew has food for Tux, so we don't want him eating Cinnamon's food. Anyway. Make sure that the other supplies and ingredients are ready. Have corn sugar at hand, the bottling bucket clean, the bottle caps ready, and the siphon tube and filler wand clean. Make sure that the bottle capper has been adjusted to the proper settings so that the caps crimp properly onto the bottles. Practice on some empties first. Number 2. Sanitize and rinse 3 times with hot water everything that will come in contact with the beer, the bottling bucket, the siphon hose, the stainless steel spoon, the bottle caps, and the bottles. Number 3. In a small saucepan, heat 1 cup of water. When it is steaming, dissolve 1/2 cup of corn sugar in it. Bring the mixture to a boil, stirring frequently. Remove from heat, cover the pan, and let cool. Number 4. Siphon the beer out of the carboy into the bottling bucket, leaving the sediment behind. Try to aerate the beer as little as possible. Number 5. Gently pour the cool sugar solution into the beer in the bottling bucket. Slowly, without agitation, stir to mix thoroughly, because remember, there's carbonation in this. Number 6. Place the bucket on a surface above the one on which the bottles will rest as they fill. Some spillage is inevitable, so choose your location carefully. Clean the area thoroughly. Number 7. Think through steps 8 through 11 and plan how to most efficiently and quickly accomplish them in your work area. See, this is the reason why I probably won't ever do this, because I don't want to have to deal with this, because for me, it would be too aggravating. Number 8. Sanitize the bottling bucket spigot. Attach the tube to the spigot. Attach the filler wand to the other end of the tube. Number 9. Open the spigot and start the beer flowing. Number 10. Position a bottle and place the filler wand down to the bottom of the bottle. Press the wand gently against the bottom of the bottle and let the beer flow until it reaches the mouth of the bottle. Lift up the wand to stop the flow of beer. As you remove the wand from the bottle, the level of beer in the bottle will drop down to the appropriate height. Number 11. Place a bottle cap over the mouth of the bottle and position it in the capper. Press down on the handle of the capper until the cap is firmly sealed on the bottle. Set aside the full bottle. Number 12. Repeat steps 10 and 11 with the remaining bottles. Number 13. Thoroughly wash all of the equipment you have used and stored in a clean, dry place. You will get years of use out of most of the gear if it is properly maintained. And that's the case with everything, with like all of your homesteading stuff. Number 14. Once the beer is bottled, it should be stored for 6 weeks before tasting. So remember, you've got probably 3 months of work before you can even think about tasting any of this. 3 to 4 months. Wipe dry the full bottles, place them upright in crates, put the crates in a cool, dark place. Number 15. During storage, the little remaining yeast is processing the corn sugar that you added at bottling and producing a little more alcohol and carbon dioxide. This carbonates the beer so that it will foam when you open it. After 6 weeks, the beer is ready to taste. It will improve even more over time, but it is ready for the first taste now, and it yields about 48 bottles. So, whew. All right, serving beer. Do not chill the beer too much. If you intend your beer to resemble bottled beer of a German or other European sort, Naturally, you will refrigerate it. Just don't make it icy cold, or it won't taste properly. If you have an English ale flavor in mind, you may not want to refrigerate it at all. If you can store your ale at cellar temperature, about 55 to 60 degrees, you will find that the lack of chill enhances the ale taste. Now, see, I might make something like that, but not beer. Use a large uncolored beer glass or mug. Tilt the glass slightly and pour the beer gently down the side. Pour in one smooth, continuous motion without stopping. Continue to pour until you see sediment approach the mouth of the bottle. At that point, stop pouring. If you are tasting a 6-week-old beer for the first time, the richer, fuller complexities of the hops will not yet have matured. After the first bottle, put away the rest for a couple of months. You'll be pleased at how much it improves. Okay, well, that was that part of it. Okay, I'm going to read this little section called Air is the Enemy. Remember that in brewing, air is the enemy. Once the wort is in the fermenter, a delicate process is taking place. Living yeast is consuming sugar and producing alcohol and carbon dioxide. The environment in the fermenter is the perfect place for this to happen. It is vital to keep aeration of the fermenting wort to a minimum. Whenever you move, siphon, skim, stir, or otherwise disturb the process, as you sometimes must, take care to cause the least possible agitation. Fermenting beer is a living thing. Nurture it. Okay. So, we still have... Honestly, I might just upload this one and then do 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more little videos with these recipes, because this video is already 30 minutes long, so we're getting there. We're almost done with chapter 4. And hey guys, we are more than halfway through the book. We have 3 chapters left. That is it, and it should not take long to get through those. So, I'm going to get off from here. I'm going to upload this, and I will be back in a few minutes, guys. Remember to keep your pen and paper handy and write this stuff down. Write your recipes down. Write down the steps. And I know it's asking a lot. Or have like another computer at hand, where you can just type it out, and print it out, okay? But make sure you guys have this in hard copy. Or go buy this book. Okay? On Amazon, this book is less than $20. If you want all the information without having to write it out, spend the $15. It's really not that much. Alright, I will see you guys in a few minutes.